Yeah. What are some of the most effective marketing strategies that a business should focus on today?
So generally what I'm doing if I start with a business, I'm trying to find what they're actually trying to achieve from the marketing. Once I know what they're trying to achieve, then I can actually look at, okay, what platforms will we actually use to achieve that?
So, what is the most effective? Is it Facebook ad or Google ad? So you do SEOs, you do the whole thing.
One of my favourite quotes is, people love to buy but they hate to be sold to.
Wow, that's a good point.
It sort of speaks to the fact.
Yeah. Now, do you think that do people have to spend a lot of money to get the exposure or lead to their business?
If you haven't advertised, you have to start working out some of those figures of, okay, how much does it cost me to get a lead? How much does it cost me to get a customer? How much am I actually willing to spend? Like, what's the end goal? If I'm selling a $5...
If you have to pick one medium of advertising, what would you pick? What's your favorite?
My favourite's Google, but I started with it and it's still what I do to this day. It's still the department.
You know, is AI, Chat GPT, and there's so many softwares now that have they're making a lot of instant videos or promotions. Is that the challenge that you think incoming for a lot of businesses in the future?
Yes, it's a challenge, but I also think it is the advantage of a lot of it. Automation and AI.
Yeah. What is the one advice that you want to give to a small business who wants to build a brand?
Don't feel that you have to do everything. You can just start and do it step by step. There is a lot out there.
What is your biggest challenge as a local business in Fraser Coast?
Staffing. We were discussing this sort of beforehand.
How important is branding for a business?
It's your personality. So basically, a lot of people come and they think brand.
Hey guys, welcome to the another episode of Studio 9 Fraser Coast. So in today's episode, if you are a small business owner or a big business owner, everybody needs a bit of marketing exposure when it comes to business marketing. Well, our guest today, he is champion in doing that just for the business. With 3 years in a row winning the best marketing business in Fraser Coast. Let me welcome the owner and the founder of JR Marketing, Josh Rimmington. Josh, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Josh. Well, we had a lot of chat behind the scene in regards to your business and everything. Let's let the audience know how you started JR Marketing and your journey coming to Fraser Coast and making it happen.
Awesome. So I started in e-commerce, so I sort of cut my teeth in the eBay when it first came to Australia, and then e-commerce sites. And about 13 or 14 years ago, probably out of a failure of one of the businesses, I found myself looking for something that I wanted to do. And there was certain parts of the businesses I had previously done that I liked, and parts that I didn't like. And one of the big parts was the sales and marketing side. And just so happened at the time, I was starting to get asked by a lot of businesses, how can we market? Like, you're number one on Google for all these different things. Like, how can we market ourselves like that? So I just started helping people. So I just started helping a lot of businesses. One of the first businesses or the business owners I started helping was a dentist in Ipswich, where I was from before Harvey Bay. And that dentist had just opened a second practice and was looking for some help with some stuff. And I said, well, let me give you some help and let's see how it goes. He's still a client to the day. We've worked on probably 20 to 30 dental practices that he's built up over the years as well. So yeah, it's sort of grown from there. When I first started, it was JR SEO, so I was just focusing on ranking in Google. Mm-hmm. And then after a while, when we started doing web design and a few other services, I decided to rebrand and set up a company as JR Marketing Group, and that was almost 10 years ago. And about 8 years ago, or a bit over 8 years ago, we moved to the Bay. From there, we've sort of established ourselves locally.
Yep. Phenomenal story. I think everybody in Fraser Coast, I think behind the scene we were talking about, like everybody has moved in the babe, doing something small and established and done phenomenal well, and for yourself. Now, winning 3 years in a row as a Hall of Fame for the best marketing business, how that lead to? What is the challenges that in current market that you feel that you have?
Yeah. So it was a absolute honour to actually win it, especially for my team, because as a marketing agency, a lot of the time we don't get a lot of that recognition. A lot of the times the business is a business that we're working with is growing and everything else, but we're just in an extension. We're just part of the business that works with them and everything else. So we don't always get a lot of that recognition. So to be recognised locally, it was super important as well, because for a long time I was focused on a national level working for a lot of the dentists and a lot of other people, and I sort of wasn't focused on locals. But over the last 6 or 7 years I've really started to try to establish that local sort of foundation and sort of build on that, and work with more locals, do a lot more local projects and sort of build our name locally. So to be recognised sort of with that was an absolute honour.
So when you said so it's like a big dentist franchise and you were doing all the marketing things for them. Is that...
He was a private owner, so he still owns a number of big practices and all that. So he would set them up, and then after we've marketed and done a lot of stuff, he would quite often sell them. And he still owns quite a few of his big ones. Yeah. But from that, he also runs a company called Practice Owners Management, and he actually sort of established consulting with businesses, dentists that want to sort of set up their own practice. Okay. And from that we get a lot of referrals, and from all the dentists we now work with, we get a lot of referrals from other dentists to say, okay, yep, this is who we use for our marketing. Yeah.
So you probably would have seen the scale of marketing changing in a decade, for the last 10 years. What is the significant change that you've seen, whether it's social media, whether it's, how has it changed? Is it changed drastically, or you're saying it has paced up and like...
It is certainly, and it changes really quickly now. So you see a lot of trends happening and everything else, and then it moves on to another trend and everything else. So it certainly does change. The fundamentals of marketing don't change, but the platforms change. What's on offer, the different things that platforms do change very rapidly, and you have to adjust with it. Yeah. A lot of people 10, 15 years ago when I was doing SEO got out of it because it was changing too much, and it just became too hard for them. Whereas I like to be testing, like doing a lot of things, and I like to be sort of making changes and working out what's working and not.
Oh, fantastic. I think you have to evolve the business with the trend, or you will just be left behind. So do you think the handle clients like does clients have very unrealistic expectations now when it comes to marketing?
Yes, quite often a lot of people will. Yeah. A lot of people are looking for that sort of golden ticket of just being able to turn around their business and get sales and everything else. Sometimes the issue might not be the marketing, it might be actually things in the business that need to be sorted first. But also most marketing takes time, and a lot of platforms might not be suitable for certain businesses. So you sort of have to be able to test and do different things on different platforms to know what will work and what won't work. So you have to sort of manage a lot of that with clients and be very transparent and upfront. There is a lot of people in the industry that sort of give us a bad name because they give unrealistic guarantees. They put things out there constantly that say, oh, we can do this, we can do that, exactly. When most of the time it's not possible. Yeah. So they're sort of putting it out there and sort of just hoping to get the person signed on, and then they worry about what will happen afterwards. Yeah. And when I first started, I was seeing a lot of the agencies that were sort of over-promising a lot of stuff, and constantly the biggest things, still most business owners come to me and say, okay, the last place we worked with said they could do this. Is this possible?
Yeah, and I think it's a great way of putting forward that when you put yourself into customers' shoes and say, hey, if it was my business, I would have done this. And they probably get more understanding than you just throwing some whole lot of packages at them and saying, okay, you need this, And I think that's where a lot of businesses do fail, that they oversell to get the business, So, yeah. But what are the challenges that you have seen in last 5 or 10 years being in the marketing business? Who are your competitors? I mean, not physical stores, but who you think your competitors are now?
Competitors are probably just the businesses themselves being able to, a lot of the time, wanting to just do it themselves because they think it's the best option and everything else.
Yeah.
So a lot of the times that is one of the biggest competitors, is that a lot of places will want to do their own marketing and different other stuff, which is fine as well. Generally, what I actually like to do as well is train a lot of those business owners in if they are doing it themselves, what they need to be looking for, what they need to be doing, sort of thing. Because generally, if you're just going out and doing something and you don't sort of have that background knowledge of what you're sort of looking for, generally won't know if you're succeeding or failing if you sort of don't have the metrics. So that, and there is a lot of, obviously there's a rise of a lot of programs and everything else for a lot of people to do stuff very easy, which is also good for us because we can utilise those programs to work with more people, do a lot more work. But then also there's a lot more people that are just doing stuff out there. So whether or not it's good or it's bad, there's a lot more of it out there because it can be easily accessed and done.
Yeah. So like more and more influencers or social media managers, marketers, where they sit in a garage or a home and there's no personalized service. There's a lot more promises, but nothing really happens.
Yeah. I'm sure there's lots of great ones out there and everything else as well. But there is certainly a lot more of them out there, a lot more courses that say, oh, we'll teach you how to do social media in a day type thing and stuff like that. So,
Yeah. What are some of the most effective marketing strategies that a business should focus on today?
So generally what I'm just doing, if I start with a business, I'm trying to find what they're actually trying to achieve from the marketing. Once I know what they're trying to achieve, then I can actually look at, okay, what platforms will we actually use to achieve that? Because if they're trying to build a brand and really get their name out there, social media might be the best way to do it. But if they're just trying to get phone calls and everything else, then we might go to Google Ads. So you're sort of wanting to work out, okay, what are your goals? What are you trying to achieve with your business? And then actually working back and goes, okay, how can we actually achieve those? What platforms are the customers going to be on? And how do we get in front of them? So there's not really one exact one, but basically working out exactly where your customers are and getting in front of them on that platform is going to be save you a lot of time in the long run, rather than sort of putting it out there on Google but no one's actually searching for your product or service. Then there's no use putting it out there. But if you've got a service-based business like a plumber, electrician, dentist, all that, people are on there searching for those. If you get in front of them, then you can get them in there.
So what is the most effective? Is it Facebook ad or Google ad? So you do SEOs, you do the whole thing.
So generally, the easiest way for me to explain it is the Google side is very much, for most things, a warm or a hot audience because people are searching for what you have. Whereas Facebook, you look at what Facebook is, it's a social media platform. The first word is social. People are on there to be social. They're not on there for a business reason. So you have to actually put out stuff that is actually going to connect with your audience and everything else on there. So it's going to be a very different way. It's not a hot audience either. It's a more cold audience because you're putting it in front of whoever basically is on there and that if you're advertising. Yes, you might have your followers and everything else, which makes it a bit warmer and everything else, but you still have to have good content, put out good stuff and everything else. I don't think you should be really trying to market too hard to them. One of my favourite quotes is, people love to buy, but they hate to be sold to.
Wow, that's a good quote.
It sort of speaks to the fact is, yeah, people love to buy, but as soon as they feel like that a sales pitch is coming, they switch off. Right. So, and it's the same with ads. People see ads and they go, oh, why are you advertising to me? What's the thing? You could have the best product or service, but they feel like you're sort of pushing something to them. Yeah. So on Facebook, you sort of have to use a lot of your organic content to get in front of them in ways that feel very natural, and also keep it very social and keep it very organic on there. So stuff like user-generated content from from people that are using a product or service works really well because it feels a bit more natural and everything else.
So, do you think, as a small business and the audience who are watching, do you think that a small business have to spend a lot of money to get the exposure, or to get, let's say, a plumber, for example, who wants to advertise himself? So, you think that social media is a great platform, or Google will be a great platform for him?
Generally, any service-based businesses, I'd be pushing towards Google. Just because if you look at how people use Google versus Facebook, people are going to Google looking for services. They're looking for a plumber available now, plumber 24 hours a day, things like that. So you want to get in front of them on the platforms that they're going to there. They're generally not going to go to Facebook. And if they do go to Facebook, it might be in a community group or something else, and they might be searching. They're generally the thing. And the thing about like community groups and all that sorts of stuff, that comes back to, if you're marketing and you're building up your brand very well, people should be tagging you in those sorts of ones and everything else and that. So you sort of, I think with any service-based business, Google's still going to be the best way of doing it. Facebook allows you to build a brand, build up your business in a very different way. It also allows you to educate a lot of people on a lot of products and services that you can't do on Google. So you can't they have to go to your website to watch a video and all that. You can put one on Facebook, be able to sort of show them what your product or service is. So e-commerce, things like that works really well because you can showcase different stuff in different ways. Yeah. So there's a place for both of them, but you sort of have to think like your customer and think, okay, if I'm looking for my product, where would I go? Am I sitting on Facebook going to the thing, or am I just quickly going on my phone and having a Google and searching it? So you sort of have to think like your customer, but local service-based businesses still, we still kill it with Google because that's still where people are searching.
Okay, yeah. Now, do you think that do people have to spend a lot of money to get the exposure or lead to their business? Like I've seen some people spend crazy amount of money on Facebook leads, Google ads, and everything. But the more money you throw, the better it gets, or you can keep $500 a month and it works out pretty well for your business.
Yeah. So I'll explain what I said to a customer today. So they're a customer and they've got a high value product and everything else. I said I would prefer to actually start with a smaller budget, as long as it's within sort of what we were working towards and everything else, and be able to get the data first and know what it's going to cost us to get a lead, know what it's going to cost us to acquire a customer, than just throwing money at it without sort of knowing any of that stuff. So if you haven't advertised, you have to start working out some of those figures of, okay, how much does it cost me to get a lead? How much does it cost me to get a customer? How much am I actually willing to spend? Like, what's the end goal? If I'm selling a $5 widget spinner sort of thing, I'm not going to want to spend more than sort of 50 cents to $1 to get someone. Yeah. But if I'm selling a house, then obviously I might be willing to spend 1,000. Yeah. So like you sort of have to start to know, okay, how much am I actually willing to put towards acquiring a customer? And then that will allow you to say, okay, well, this is how much I can spend. Do I actually need to spend that, or do I build up to that? Do I get one campaign that works well and then build on that? Because there's a lot of time with ads, once you've got a campaign, especially any of the paid stuff, once you've got a campaign that's running well, as long as there's room to move, you should be able to then increase the budget and everything else, and that should increase the leads. But you need to know, okay, how much is it costing me to get leads? And so that when you increase it, making sure that it's still costing you the same, and you're not just sort of putting extra money there and you're not getting as many leads. So a lot of data and information sort of in there to make sure that you get that sort of stuff.
For you and your team does that pretty much for every business. Yeah. So once someone joins, come to JR Marketing, they say, hey, this is my business, I want to spend this much. You tailor package them saying, okay, let's spend this much money and see what's coming through. And then you monitor it, and then you work around that business.
Yeah. So surprisingly, a lot of our clients actually will come and they say, okay, how much do we have to spend? So a lot of them haven't done a lot of marketing yet, or they haven't done. So like you sort of have to sort of explain some of the stuff to them and sort of let them know the thing. And that comes back to some of that managing those expectations at the start. Yeah. I would rather them sort of know any costs, anything of the thing at the start, so that they say, okay, well, if it's going to cost us this much, we need to sort of sign up this many people for a product or service in the next sort of month to make sure it's covered and everything else. And then managing some of those expectations around, okay, well, generally it might take a month for the campaign to start running and get things going. So you probably want to only start looking at the sort of the cost per click and the results after the second month and things like that. So yeah, managing a lot of those. But yeah, we sort of go over when we work with any clients, we're basically doing a discovery call and we're digging in sort of deep to their business and what their goals are and what they're trying to achieve. Because anyone that's coming to us has obviously got a problem that they're trying to solve, yeah, and that's with any marketing. Marketing is you're basically putting a solution to any problem out there. And the same when someone comes to us, they've got obviously their problem most of the time is, okay, they need more customers, they need more people, more phone calls, anything else. So we're trying to dig into what that problem is, and then also work out, okay, how much can we actually spend to get people in the business? Like how much, like what's the budget? What can you actually afford, and everything else? Because there's quite often some people go, okay, we really don't have much budget. Yeah. And said, oh, well, we might be able to do some training, or we might be able to do this, but we can't really sort of do much Google Ads or something if we don't have a budget behind it and things like that. So we can sort of work out according to what their business is and what they need the best.
The kind of most popular with the audience, is it scripted ads or is it organic? Like someone making a coffee in a coffee shop, or mom and pop doing dog grooming, you know? Yeah. That works more with the audience and catches more attention? Or is it one that, you know, you see it's all scripted where there is professionals doing shoots and stuff like that?
Yeah, organic is on the rise, and it's working way better than anything else. People are trusting it more because they feel like it's not scripted, it's not the thing. I think that as AI and everything else comes in more to play, that's going to even be more important. So the more organic you can be, the more real you can be with your audience, the better it's going to be, because people feel like, okay, well, if they see a very scripted one, oh, is that just created by AI? Is this that? Are you a real business? Is there people behind it? So being able to show the people behind the business, being able to show what you do, who you are, and everything else is super important.
Yeah. So with the Googles and everything, with that question, just going back to the Google, I just want to get my head around, you know, when you do an ad, you did for 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, and you stop, and then you do after a couple more months again. Will that affect how it generates lead, or is it you have to continuously doing for 6 months or 7 months before you start seeing some results?
It really depends sometimes on the ad and the campaign. Okay. Generally, you can stop a Google Ads campaign and then restart it. But what happens is that it does have to start building up some of that data and everything else. With any of the algorithms, with the paid ads and everything else, they rely on the algorithm generating data. So anytime you stop it and it's paused for a bit of time, and it restarts, it really has to regenerate a lot of that data and everything else, because it doesn't have fresh information. So it needs to regenerate that. So you're not going to be able to stop it for a month and then expect phone calls to start back up the next day if you turn it back on. It sort of has to sort of build back up. Generally, it doesn't take as long as a totally new campaign, because it does have some past data and everything else, but it's also not instantaneous. The algorithm basically has to almost build that data to be able to work properly.
How important is branding for a business?
It's your personality. So basically, a lot of people come and they think branding is just a logo for a business or something like that. It's everything your business does. It's your personality behind your business. It's everything you post on social media. It's the words you use on your website. It's the font you use on your website. So it's basically your personality, but you really have to know what you want people to feel when they see anything from your business. What do you actually want them to feel? So you really have to know your business to get your brand really dialed in. So you need to create some core values, or say, okay, when someone sees my business, this is what I want them to feel. This is who I want them to say, oh, that business is really fun. That business is really great at what they do. They get results. They're really honest and upfront. I'm saying some of these because some of those are my core values in the business that I created when I first started the business, and they're things like have fun, be honest, be transparent, communicate effectively. Things like that are stuff that I've sort of built along the way. People also think that your brand is sort of set and forget, that you sort of go, okay, this is my brand and everything else. It will develop as your business develops. You may create some brand elements and some things as you go, and basically go, okay, well, the business has changed. We can change. The same as like you will change as you grow and learn and everything else. Your business can change as well. So don't be afraid that to start with something just to get started, and then build on some of those things as you get to know, okay, oh, well, I thought this was going to be my ideal customer, but my ideal customer is actually these guys, so I really should have these sorts of elements in my brand and talk about this stuff in my business.
Do you think that with normal mom and dad business, are they shifting towards social media, or they still staying with the old school way, newspapers, and is there a shift happening, or are people more understanding that now more and more people are on their phone, on the TV? I think even TV ad is, I think, very old school. I'm not sure, but I don't look at TV ads at all. I pretty much tend to skip it. Newspapers, I think it's super old school. So what do you think? Where is it changing? Is social media have changed?
I think most people are now in a generation where they sort of understand that social media is one of the, sort of the key foundations when you're building a business as well. Like you might create a website, or you might set up something on Google. You sort of have to go on there and have a social media presence and everything else. So it has sort of become one of the first things, and it is probably the quickest way to start getting out there, because you're utilising someone else's platform, and you don't have to sort of build a website or different other stuff. So you can basically start getting out there, have your phone number and things like that, without having to sort of have some of those other things sort of lined up yet. So yeah, it is sort of becoming increasing, the people that actually use it and everything else. Some of the old school ways of marketing, newspapers, radio, everything else, generally when anyone comes to me, because I have a lot of clients that sort of trust me with any of their stuff, so they'll say, oh, we got offered this newspaper ad, or we got offered this radio, what do you think about it? I'll normally ask them what we're trying to achieve by it, like what are we trying to do? And then also say, okay, what's the audience, and are the audience that we're actually looking for going to be on that medium? Are they still the thing? I know with like you doing real estate and different other stuff, a lot of people still look at the real estate guides in some of the newspapers and things like that. So that sort of advertising definitely works. But there's been a massive shift, and the majority of people are actually just going online to realestate.com and things like that. So you sort of have to look at, okay, how many people are going to be looking at it in a newspaper versus how many people are actually going to be looking at it online. So you sort of have to weigh it up. There is a place for a lot of marketing, but you also have to know why you're doing it, and is it actually worthwhile, and is it actually achieving sort of what our overall goals are, or are we just sort of throwing money? I've got my uncle has a shed business, and he still advertises a lot in a lot of the farmer magazines and things like that, because a lot of the farmers are still sitting there and have them in their sheds and still reading them and everything else. But he's obviously got a massive online focus now as well, because a lot of them are going online. They have to spend time online. So you sort of have to know your audience and then start saying, okay, are they actually consuming that type of media? And if they are, then you can get in front of them in that way.
Yeah. If you have to pick one medium of advertising, what would you pick? What's your favorite?
My favourite's Google, but I started with it, and it's still what I do to this day. Yeah. It's still the department of the business that I am most hands-on in. Okay. I work the most in, and everything else. It probably comes back to, one, it's what I started in, but also when I started, it was my only way to sort of be able to compete with massive players with not much budget. So I was able to get sites ranked and everything else just through what I was doing without having a budget and everything else. So the organic side was massive for me on Google. So I sort of fell in love with it then, and I still do it. I still test. It's still what I sort of do today. So Google is still sort of my baby of the marketing side of it. Obviously spend a lot of time on socials. We do have a social media team, branding team, do all the different departments and everything else. But yeah, I still very hands-on in the Google side of it. It's still what I do, a lot of training with people, teaching them and everything else.
Yeah, so as you were saying, Josh, in regards to the shift in marketing, what do you think are the biggest because you're always probably in trend looking at, okay, what's next that's coming up? Is AI, Chat GPT, and there's so many softwares now that they're making a lot of instant videos or promotions that probably could have done by 3 people back in the days. Now, a simple app just does it. You put it on and everything pops in. Is that the challenge that you think incoming for a lot of businesses in the future?
Yes, it's a challenge, but I also think it is the advantage of a lot of it. Automation and AI is here to stay. So it is part of it. You sort of have to embrace it. You have to look at how it can actually work in with your business and how it can actually work to your advantage. So there's so many good AI and automation now to speed up the process and basically help you along the way. But as I was sort of saying with some of the other things, that also then creates the challenge of once there's a lot of AI generated content, people are going to start trusting AI generated content less. Mm-hmm. So there's going to be a rise in organic content and building trust in your business. I released a book last year called Trust, and the reason I released it and spoke about that topic at some events was because the credibility of a lot of businesses goes down when they use AI and a lot of other things without changing it and without sort of being organic and natural. Yeah. So they're losing a lot of that trust with a lot of their customers because they're losing a lot of that personality that's behind the business. They're losing a lot of that organicness and everything else.
Yeah. So being authentic goes away and then you're pretty much faking a lot of things.
Yeah. So you sort of have to obviously use it the right way. Mm-hmm. So as automation and everything else and speeding up processes, it's great. Yeah. But using it for the whole process and everything else, mm-hmm. I think over the next year or two, you're going to see a lot more. If people are actually posting real stuff and everything else, that stuff's going to increase and everything else. Mm-hmm. We've seen the increase of short form video over the last couple of years. I think that's just going to only just increase more and more. So people using short form video, TikTok, Reels, anything else are going to sort of see the more benefits from it as long as they are real. Yeah. They're not sort of just trying to go viral. They're not trying to sort of put out something that everyone else has put out. They're not just putting something out that's AI generated. They're actually putting real stuff out there. So I think you need to sort of build that trust in your business as well and put out that organic content because the more that other people are putting out that AI generated content, you're going to look better and better.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Okay. Yeah, that's pretty good actually. So what part of your business is the big chunk of it? Is it signage? Is it SEO's website, social media, or is it the entire thing?
It's a combination. So our Google side is probably our business because it was the first one, and we've got a lot of long-term clients. We've got a lot of stuff that we've worked on for a long time. So that's one of the biggest. We have seen the rise of our sign and print sort of business over the last year or so, and a lot more big jobs and everything else. The sign and print majority is local, so whereas with our Google and everything else, I could work with someone, interstate, clients Tasmania, clients in sort of all over Australia. The sign and print's obviously restricted by sort of being able to install and do things and all that sorts of stuff. We do some stuff where we can ship and everything, but the majority of stuff is done locally. Yeah. So you sort of, the size is sort of a bit dictated by what's available sort of locally. our websites, branding and everything else has also been a big sort of growing area just because we work with a lot of new businesses, and a lot of those new businesses are coming to us and they need the websites, they need branding and things like that. So that's sort of growing, and then as we go from there, then we can talk about the marketing side of it, but they sort of need that foundation before we can sort of, we've got something to market.
So if you have to do a step-by-step guide, is it the branding first, then how do you get to, what is a step-by-step guide?
Yep. So I can sort of explain it because we've got lots of new businesses that we're currently working with. Branding is always first, so we're trying to get their brand elements done, get a lot of their logo and everything else. Then we're generally getting a website up, helping them with things like domain registration. A lot of the times the domain registration, if they haven't got it, we'll do that as soon as we've sort of worked out names and everything else so that we've got it all locked in. So then your website, and then we're sort of looking at, okay, what are the goals for the business? Do we want to make sure that we've got good organic rankings? Okay, we probably need to start doing some SEO. Have we got our social media accounts set up? Okay, let's set up Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. Let's get all those ones sort of set up so that we've got them there, and we can either help you sort of create some content, or we can help actually do it for you. So yeah, it's probably the step, and then the long term one is just basically working out what they're trying to achieve and do the marketing.
Is there a kind of like a sweet spot where you know that the reach has hit where we wanted, or is a number, or what do you look into when I say, okay, I'm advertising, I'm putting out in the Google, and you guys say, okay, this is the number that we want to hit, guys, and we know that, yeah, we've done it. Like it's getting out there.
Yeah, it's going to be very different for every business. So generally, we're working in close with them of what they're sort of they can do. So if it's like a dentist, what their availability is done. So working in and saying, okay, well, before opening, we're booked out 4 weeks in advance and things like that. We know that with the thing. So let's continue to make sure that we're sort of booked out in advance. If they've got a product or a service, making sure that if they've put something on special, or they've got the thing that they're selling out of them, or they're doing this. So the goals do shift according to the business, but working closely with that business and saying, okay, well, what are we trying to achieve? Like, what are we trying to do? And like, is the phone ringing? Is this happening? If that's what we're trying to achieve.
Yeah. What is the one advice that you want to give to a small business who wants to build a brand?
Don't feel that you have to do everything. You can just start and do it step by step. There is a lot out there these days, so there is a lot of information out there and everything else. And generally, the information that someone is pushing is going to be what they offer. So if someone's telling you you have to do Facebook, generally if you look, it's what the service they offer.
That's correct.
If you have to do Google, then it's the thing. You don't have to do anything. It is, in the end, it's your business. Work out what's the easiest way to start getting customers, getting sales and everything else, and just start, do it step by step. I see so many business owners getting overwhelmed by everything. And even when I meet with a lot of people, I'll make sure they know that, okay, we will give you lots of options. You don't have to do it all. We can start small. We can do this little part, see how it goes, and then build into the other stuff. The options are there because we can do those, but you don't have to do them all at once. So start small and just look for that first step, because that's always the hardest thing, taking that first step. So if your first goal is, okay, I just want to get one sale, then focus on that. Don't focus on the future, don't focus on the thing, get that first sale. When I first started, I wasn't charging some of the customers. I was just building up my name, building up some of the work I was doing. I had done a lot of stuff for myself, but I hadn't done it for other businesses. So in myself, I needed to build that own sort of confidence, basically, that, it worked for me, but will it work for someone else? And then once I started getting those results, then I built on that. Getting results, getting actually sales and things like that is always going to be the sort of first battle. It's the first step and everything else. And if you do get those, then make sure you celebrate them as well, because
Yeah.
there's a lot of businesses that sort of don't succeed and don't do things. So yeah, celebrate those little wins along the way. But yeah, build on that momentum as well. And once you know sort of, okay, how do I get that first sale? How can I then build on that to get another one and everything else?
Yeah, and I think it's more also with a lot of businesses. I think people focus so much on marketing and forget the quality and the product. I think product is the key end of the day in the business. I think if you have a good quality product, I think word of mouth gets in and things like that. As we were discussing backstage, and that's one of the key part. And I think a lot of people so much get focused on that marketing side. Yes, I think marketing is important. Don't get me wrong. But I think they also have to understand their business and work towards the business, and the business will grow automatically.
Yeah, so often they think that the marketing is the solution to their problems, but there's a lot more problems in their business they need to fix before the marketing. And sometimes what marketing does is it actually amplifies those problems. So if they've got problems with their product or service, all the marketing does is that it makes it look bigger, it sort of puts it out there more and everything else, because all of a sudden there's a lot more people looking at your product or service, or there's a lot more people talking about your product and service. So if you haven't fixed those problems, it's basically just amplifying it. So there is a lot of times where marketing is not the fix to the problem. You've got some sort of things to look at in your business.
Absolutely.
Before it. Not all business owners, but there is business owners that come to us when it's almost their last resort. It should never be that. You shouldn't be coming in a panic state and everything else. Generally, the ones that I see that sort of come and they're in that sort of state generally don't last very long and everything else, because it needs to be a long-term sort of approach and everything to it. You sort of don't want to be panicked, just trying to get something just to get more sales to be able to stay open.
Yep. One piece of advice that you want to get to someone who wants to get into marketing?
I'm very big on learning as you do. So if you can get a job in the industry or with someone that's doing it, I think you're going to benefit a lot more than if you just go into a degree and everything else. I've hired both. Generally, I'm looking for someone that's got the physical experience versus the piece of paper that says they've got a marketing degree and everything else. Because the platforms are changing so quickly, the algorithms change so quickly and everything else. If you're sitting there learning about stuff in a classroom, you're not actually learning what's happening on that platform and changing it up. I'm pretty sure those lecturers aren't going to change the topic every week according to what's working that week and everything else. And they don't have the data like we do have in an agency where we've got a lot of clients and we can see what's happening and everything else. So I think if you go and you learn how to do it, don't be afraid to the thing. Another big thing is, if you can, focus on one thing. Don't try and focus on everything. I know, like, I have an agency that does everything in the thing, but I started with one thing. I didn't focus on everything. I got really good at one thing. So get good at one thing and offer that. And if you can offer that to a niche as well, rather than to everyone, you're going to be ahead of a lot of people, because there's so many people out there just putting out their offer to everyone and hoping to get the thing. But if you get really good at one thing in one niche, you start to build a reputation in that niche and get people actually talking about you over that. And also you can build on it in the fact when people will trust you more and say, okay, you work with a lot of this type of business, you know what you're doing. Rather than saying, okay, well, you work with a hairdresser, you work with a chemist, you work with this and everything else. And they go, okay, is what you do, then I work for me with my type of business. So yeah, you sort of, get good at one thing and see if you can work in one niche and focus on something so that you can sort of build on that.
Yeah. What is your biggest challenge as a local business in Fraser Coast?
Staffing. We were discussing this sort of beforehand. It's hard to get people that have sort of worked in the industry or qualified and everything else. But then, obviously trying to keep them, build them up as staff and everything else. Has always sort of been a hard thing. As we grow, you want good staff, you want people that are experienced in different things and everything else, because you want to be able to expand that as part of the business. And if you can't find someone, it becomes very hard. So you sort of very much a push, obviously, for people to be able to work remotely and everything else. But then when you've got a business that's majority not remote, then it becomes very hard having a sort of a combination of it, and that. So yeah, it becomes very hard to manage the staff and get good staff and everything else. I'm lucky; I've got a great team and people, and I've had great people that have worked with me over the years and everything else. But it does become hard to get those good people and continue to get good people and everything else. Just because we're sort of relying on either the people that are here or the people moving in, and relying on that the people moving in, maybe 1 in 1,000 or 2,000 might have worked in marketing or done that sort of thing, whereas a lot might have worked in hospitality or different other stuff. It's a bit of because we're a very niche business.
So do you get a lot of support from council with the job expos and things like that, where they do a lot of job expos and stuff? Where do people come?
We have done a few job expos and different other things. It is hard, so you're trying to either get them when they're really young and train them up, or get them as they're coming out of university.
Yeah, all right. So, okay, as we pretty much to the end of this podcast here, so what would you like to tell the audience who are watching when it comes to marketing, and do you want to do what services you offer? And
we are a full service marketing agency. So we do Google with SEO, Google Ads, social media management, social media ads, branding, graphic design, website design, a lot of website updates, redesigns and everything else. And then we've got a sign and print division that does printing and all your signage and everything needs. So we really sort of cover every aspect of them. For people with marketing that need marketing, probably the biggest thing is don't be afraid of it. If you sort of have questions on it, or you're sort of thinking, okay, we do need more customers, we probably should be doing something, come have a chat, talk about it. I try and simplify most of the stuff. I'm not one to sort of try and throw too many sort of jargon or anything at you. I'll try and simplify it as much as possible, explain it how it's the easiest to understand. But also, there's never any sort of expectation that you have to do anything else. Quite often when people will come and do a discovery call with one of us or the thing, they'll get a lot of value out of it, of things that they can just actually be doing in their own business. Even if they can't afford stuff, they can sort of get ideas, okay, we really need to start doing that social media side, or we did the thing, or we could do some one-off training with us. We do quite often do a lot of training and different things, so there's always levels to it. Our biggest thing is just trying to help a lot of businesses. I like to make marketing simple, and I like to sort of help them actually start marketing, start doing something and everything else. So if I can sort of start them doing something if they haven't done it before, that's sort of a win in itself.
Yeah, absolutely. And guys, if you have watched this podcast right till the end, and if you're sitting on the edge, if you're a local business sitting on the edge thinking of what should I do with marketing, well, JR Marketing is the place to go, because all that you have to do is just ask the question, what should I do for my business? And they will help you, whether it be signages, website, branding, and they are the guys that you want to reach out, and they should help you to the first leg of any kind of promotion for your business. Well, Josh, thank you so much for coming to the podcast. It was good, insightful. I think we can talk whole day about marketing, and it's a never-ending topic, So, but it's a great base for a lot of our audience to talk about and hear about. And thanks for taking time to come to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.